Hello, hello. So in the last video, we talked about what the PACE model actually is, and I feel like that sounds great in theory, but now let's talk about what it looks like in classroom practice. So I'm going to show you a few examples that I've used. So I've been talking about this health thing. This is the unit that I've been working on with my Spanish 3 classes, and it's been health, and I'm looking for them to talk about how their health has changed, what they have done to improve their health, which involves the present perfect tense. So take a look here at what I have. So I started by looking for authentic resources, and this is what I came up with. So I have a bunch of tweets, which were relatively simple to find because I kept typing in things like cambiado, looking for that present perfect, and things like salud, seeing what I came up with. So I would give them a tweet with three very simple questions, and the first question was always really, is this a positive or negative tweet? So this one was just talking about how more people are in favor of organ donation, which is a positive tweet. So that's one of the big things I'm looking for. And then I just keep going and I go, okay, I have this one that talks about somebody giving up using television. And I even have like some of the comments that use the present perfect, which was phenomenal. So again, I give them those interpretive questions because leading up to this, we did like a pre-activity where we pre-taught some of the vocab, how they say tele instead of televisión, stuff like that. And again, is this a positive tweet or is this a negative tweet, right? So I'm asking them to just interpret what they're doing instead of just reading. Same thing, I have three more that I gave them afterwards, one about energy drinks, one about eating disorders, and then one about sugar. And I give them those same types of questions where it was read what the tweet says, identify as this positive or negative, add new words to your vocabulary list, etc. So all of this, I was really just looking for them to interpret what was there and show them that they can understand a whole tweet, even though they don't necessarily know a mejorado, right? They don't necessarily know the present perfect in every single one of these, but they can figure out what's going on because they know the verb mejorar. They know this is comer, right? So if they use those, they can follow along pretty well, and they were able to understand these tweets relatively simply. To follow that up, I have no shame in my classes. So to continue talking about health, I made up a situation saying that I recently went to the doctor and he had a bunch of stuff to tell me. So I gave them a bunch of sentences to kind of activate prior pretend knowledge where I said, all right, what did the doctor probably say to senor, right? And again, I have no shame. I really don't like what they said. Didn't matter to me. I have thick skin with that. But if you notice, every single one of these is actually in the past tense and it's in the two form past tense. What I'm trying to activate in their brains is, oh, that's past tense. I know that's past tense. I know that because the present perfect is the recent past. So I want them kind of planning out in their heads, oh, he's talking about things in the past. So that we get to that, when we get to that co-construction phase, they're able to point out, oh, this is how this works. This is the past tense, or this is a past tense, I should say. Then I did a slight presentation where I talked about actually what I have done to improve my health. So I gave them this. This is an identifying interpretive activity, where all they had to do was listen to what I was saying and check off the ones that I did. So it held them responsible for what was going on instead of just mindlessly listening to me. They actually had something they had to do with that input. So at that point, we've done the presentation phase. The presentation phase was the presentation that I did with them and all these tweets, right? So now I went back, and this went over about a day and a half. I went back and I bolded all those present perfect verbs that were in the tweets or that were in the activities themselves. I co-constructed it with them, so I gave them kind of this list of things. I said, first off, look at these examples. Second off, what happens with the yo form? What happens with the L and A form? What do you notice is different between those two forms? What do you notice with AR verbs, ERs, and IRs? Always saying, what do you notice, right? Not saying, what's the rule? What's happening? Just saying, what do you pick up on, okay? So I asked them, well, what do you think would happen if I changed subjects? And they were able to put together, well, usually, I know yo, I know L and A, usually two form is just an S, right? And they can figure those sorts of things out. During those co-constructions, I asked them, oh, are there any irregular verbs you noticed? Okay. And then once we kind of got through all that, and they were able to point out, oh, this goes with ado, this goes with either. They were able to point out yo forms. They were able to point out a lot of different things from this, and I filled in any gaps that they had. So there was no nosotros form in there, so I just filled that one in for them. Okay. And then I asked them to figure out, well, when do you use this tense? And because of that first activity where they were checking off what happened in the past, and they were able to see the word recientemente, they were like, oh, is this the past tense? And I was like, yes, it is a past tense, but how is this different than present imperfect? How is this different than what we've done before? And they were able to say, oh, well, I think it's recent past. So to kind of put them to the test, to let them try out what they were saying before I just jumped to it and was like, yes, this is it, this is everything. I had them try some different ones. So I said, all right, logically, what do you think Senor has done recently for his diet, for his physical health, for his mental health? Can you use the models from that second activity? And can you write a few more sentences for what you think they were able to do? And they were able to say things like, well, Senor probably has gotten rid of his Netflix account. Haven't. But they were able to say things like, Senor probably has visited the supermarket more often. Senor probably has looked up some diet, some healthy recipes for a diet, those sorts of things. I kept it going where I gave them some different situations with different people. And again, interpretive activities where I said, all right, what has this person logically done? Which ones make sense? Which ones don't make sense? Can you come up with two more that they logically have done based on each one of these situations? At that point, we would figure it out. Okay, this is the present perfect. This is how we form it. This is how we use it. And they did most of the work. I didn't start out by telling them everything. So then my job came in to say, all right, extension. We have presented it. We have drawn your attention to it. We have co-constructed it. Now let's show how you can use this. So we went in three different directions. First, we started with the idea of how has your diet affected your health? We looked at an article on the Mediterranean diet, and we wrote a letter to a friend who has not had the best eating habits, and we want to recommend the Mediterranean diet and explain what I have done recently that's been healthy in terms of food. How has Wellesley High School affected your health? We're looking at student schedules. Those are really fun. Those are those Spanish 1 schedules that you might use in earlier levels. Brought those back, and instead of looking at just the classes and the times, now we're looking at the perspective of, well, they have a break here. They have more classes. They have less classes, right? And so we were able to look through those school schedules and talk about how, and do a role play where we said, how has Wellesley High School affected your health? And then we ended it with how has technology affected your health? An article where we kind of broke into twos. Person A read one that was for technology. Person B read one that was against technology. And we ended up doing a debate saying, has technology affected your health positively or negatively? A few more examples to give you. This is one using the imperfect. So a first activity to kind of activate prior knowledge, I gave them the forms here. And they can figure out, they know what these words mean. They know what this looks like. So describe your house. What used to be close to your house? What was your favorite part of your house? Here I gave them a bunch of descriptions of different houses and the pictures that match those descriptions. So an interpretive activity was read the descriptions and decide which photo matches with which house. From there, some true or false questions, some look up these words, and look, these are all imperfect words. So we're starting to focus on the meaning of the words, the definitions of the words, not how you form the words. Then I had them do some personal questions. Okay? And I told them use the resource, because the resource kind of sets it up very nicely for you. Use that to model your answers for these. From there, we talked, and now we did some co-construction where I highlighted different verbs, and we were able to put together the imperfect tense here. So I highlighted them or bolded them, and then I asked them specific questions. What happens with an AR verb? What happens in a yo form? Do you notice, is this present, past, future? What sort of keywords do you see? And they were able to point out words like, well, generally, every day, and they eventually were able to get to the point of saying, does it translate to used to? And I had them write one on their own. A couple of other examples. This is one using reflexive verbs that, again, I'll give you the link to this in our course. So just using reflexive verbs, same sort of thing, finding words, actions people do to themselves, actions people do to other things. Here's one that's based on homelessness and volunteer work. So it said 3 actions that you can do to help a homeless person. And this is a WikiHow article, kind of modified. So they have to read through this article that has the subjunctive in a bunch of different places here. So what they're doing is they're reading, giving the article a title and an explanation, finding these expressions, which are all subjunctive expressions, because I'm kind of getting them ready to guide their attention to it. Deciding, well, does this sentence make sense or not? Does it make sense when it's good that people don't donate old clothes? Well, no, that doesn't make sense based on what's in the article. The subjunctive is in all of these, but I'm asking them to do interpretive tasks with them. And then we got to the part where we started to co-construct. So I bolded the expressions. I underlined or color-coded the verbs. First, we looked at the expressions and said, all right, what do these expressions have in common? Then we looked at the verbs. and we were able to co-construct the subjunctive, one of them, as we know, one of the more difficult tenses to work through. And here's the example that I was talking about earlier with the tweets. Okay? So I'm hoping that these give you an idea of what the PACE lessons look like. And notice that some of them are teacher written, some of them are authentic resource. This is kind of a combo pack. This is a teacher written one, and this is a teacher written one with real pictures. And then the tweets had that combo pack as well. So start thinking about these as you get ready to create your own. And we're not going to create your own this week, but we're looking to start making models and start kind of prepping you for that final project.